Is there another one? Is that it?
No, it's just like, I think Representative Hanson.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I thought it was a technical. Okay, so this is actually a real amendment. Well, we can go back and take it out if we don't like it. So it's in there. Did you want to just tell us what it is, though, anyhow, Representative Hanson? Because obviously, if the committee doesn't like it for markup, it probably wouldn't survive. So, Representative Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A1 amendment deals with housing improvement areas, and it provides the Dakota County Community Development Agency to have, not replacing the power of the local government, but being an additional opportunity to do those housing improvement areas. I think that's the short description.
Thank you. Okay, so we understand that, and with that, welcome, and let's hear about 1686.
Madam Chair, Committee, my name is Kathy Amani. I'm a lawyer at Baker Baker Daniels, and we represent the Institute of Public Finance. This is a statewide organization made up of financial advisors, bond counsel, municipal underwriters, those kind of folks that work with your cities and school districts and counties and townships, etc. And we, most years, bring forward a public finance bill, as the representative is our suggestions of what we view and want to keep and intend to be that way, fairly technical improvements, we think, in the laws that relates to public finance. And I don't think there's any street improvement changes in here. It's probably good. And I'll let Ms. Crandall take it.
Well, that's good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, my name is Lynette Slater-Crandall, and I'm a partner with the Dorsey & Whitney Law Firm. I am a bond lawyer practicing in the state of Minnesota, and I'm also the vice chair for the MIPF organization. I think the most important thing to know about MIPF is that we really help public entities access the capital markets, particularly the tax-exempt markets. And we assist all types of entities in the state of Minnesota with projects that have any type of a public financing component. And I have come to accept over the course of this career as bond lawyer that not everybody finds it to be as fascinating as I do. So I'll do my best not to drone on, but I will give you a very, very brief overview of the various sections of the bill, and I'd be happy to take questions. Sections 1 and 2 relate to permitted investments of government funds. This provides for some additional high-rated short-term options for investments, more options for secure investments for local governments are a good thing. Section 3 relates to the existing PACE program. Those are property assessed clean energy bonds. This provision would allow property owners to borrow for energy improvements that are assessed against their property and tie that assessment to the maximum maturity for the bonds. Right now it's shorter, and so that program doesn't really work very well in the market, is what we're told. Sections 4, 7, and 8 deal with county and city capital equipment notes, adding additional public projects to the list of those eligible for financing. This is consistent with the school district's authority, and these sections also address issues of useful life for project finance. Sections 5 and 10 address county and city capital improvement plan, or CIP bonds, tying the reimbursement for costs that might be paid by a city or county prior to the issuance of those bonds to some federal law requirements, and also add some additional eligible public projects for counties only. Sections 6 and 11 and 12 relate to county and city CIP bonds and street reconstruction bonds. In respect of the reverse referendum requirement, we tie the requirement for signatures on a petition for a referendum to the last local election, and we also provide for a waiting period in the event that a city or a county would choose not to submit the bonds for an election. Section 9 is a request of the Airports Commission. Again, this relates to permitted investments of government funds. It modifies current law to give them the same investment authority as other municipalities in Minnesota, and I believe there are representatives of the MAC here to have a specific question about that. And finally, Section 13 removes the sunset on special service districts. That's currently set to expire on June 30th, 2013, and many in our industry have expressed an interest in keeping that tool alive. So with that, I'd be happy again to answer any specific questions.
Thank you, Ms. Slater-Crandall. Very nice. Appreciate that. Discussion. That's our Representative Muller.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Ms. Connie. Just a few questions here. The references to fiber optic, does that have to do, in cases where we're talking about municipally owned fiber optic, telecom systems, is that kind of situation, or is this something else?
That's fine.
Madam Chair, Representative Runbeck, I believe that we didn't realize until today that that is potentially a controversial piece of it. So I think it's our, and I don't remember if it was in your summary, it's our recommendation that you not include that in the omnibus bill. So we can go ahead and try to figure out the answers if you'd like, but we are not recommending that we move ahead with that as a part of the public finance.
Representative, I mean, because I think we've all heard from some folks on that part of the provision, and again, I want to say generally, if it's controversial to us, we don't want to include it, but can I just check, are we looking at the section 4, the third bullet on the summary? 4, 7, and 8. Mr. Michael, can you tell us what, if we don't want to do this part of the bill, which part are we talking about deleting?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, there are 3 separate capital note or certificate statutes depending upon the type of the unit of government. There's a separate statute for counties, home rule charter cities, and statutory cities, and the Institute was proposing keeping those statutes consistent and adding the language to each of them. So if you want to drop the fiber optic, you will do it from each of the 3 statutes. So each of the 3 sections. Now, the bill summary that I wrote only says it once and then refers to the other 2 sections by reference. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It sounds like that's going to be handled well before the bill moves.
And we want to get some testimony about it, so people kind of get on the record on the concern there. I heard from a number of members who have a problem with this, but, so I don't want to spend, an hour debating it if we're not doing it. I guess is what I'm thinking, is that if you are proposing to not do it, I think that moves things along. Hasani?
Madam Chair, we are proposing to not do it, however, I think Mr. Carlson from the County Association would like to make some comments on it.
Sure, Mr. Carlson, I wasn't thinking of you, but there's a couple other people talking to me today, and I encourage them to tell us why they oppose it, but again, I don't want to spend too much time if it's not something that however, if members that want to fight for it, now's the time. Mr. Carlson.
Madam Chair, members, I think we need to clarify that the authority that's being granted to cities and counties under this is only for fiber optic cable or other means of voice and data transmission among government facilities. It is not to provide fiber optic cable to serve residents or commercial industrial facilities. This is frankly long-standing authority that the school districts have had for a number of years. So I question the controversy relating to this. A number of the frankly wealthier counties are doing this right now. They have the ability to self-finance. The less tax-based rich or with less financing options do not have the ability to finance these types of improvements right now.
Well, that doesn't clarify the
Yeah, maybe we should take.
obviously the language is.
Right, why don't we take all the testimony on this provision, just so members understand a little bit. I did not know that it was just government to government when I was stopped by folks, so welcome to the committee.
Good evening. Madam Chair, for the record, my name is Frank Christensen. I'm from Minnesota Telecom Alliance, and we're a trade association that represents over 70 independent telecom companies in Minnesota. The previous witness testified that it is currently the language that is just for connecting businesses or county buildings or government buildings, but there's nothing that prevents them from getting in the private sector or reselling those services, and that's where our objection is. Basically, our main issue with this is that there's some significant policy issues surrounding this topic, and Minnesota Telecom Alliance is opposed to that for the government funded construction of fiber networks. And those references, we mentioned earlier, lines 3.3 and 3.4, 5.3 and 5.4, 5.29 and 5.30. And the language is problematic because it creates an unlevel playing field for the private providers. And this legislation also permits local governments to incur long-term debt for equipment and expenditures in a competitive telecom world that can be obsolete in just a few years. And this business model is market disruptive and provides a government competitor access to capital on terms the private sector does not have access to. And additionally, Minnesota law requires a referendum before the city can enter into the telecom business, and this section appears to circumvent that law. And it's these reasons that we're opposed to that part of it.
Thank you for your testimony. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mike Martin, Minnesota Cable Communications Association, the cable companies in Minnesota. Brent has been very specific about it. We share that concern. Specifically, the provision opens the door for government-sponsored competition financed by government bonding for facilities that are provided by cable companies, telephone companies, and fiber companies right now. The issue is this ability to lease capacity. The counties can use this without a referendum to go out and build a facility between any governmental. There's no definition of which facilities they're serving, where they're going, within what jurisdiction. They would have the ability to bond for this without referendum, build facilities, and then turn around and sell capacity on those to companies that will compete with the existing providers. There's many examples that do it now. Dakota County, I know, Scott County, they're able to do this now. However, there has been discussion, there's issues, there is some transparency concern. And our concern is the transparency goes away when you remove this requirement for a referendum where they're now required. So we do think this is a policy matter that really needs more.
Can I ask you, when you said those counties are doing it now, did you mean they're doing fiber? Are they selling it?
Well, yes, what they do is, for their own purposes, they'll go out and fund a project that will build fiber. It might be between the cities within the county. Carver County has a project like that. It was funded with air grants that connected the cities, and then the cities and their facilities within Carver County. It was a $6 million federal grant. They used, again, not bonding, then they turned around and used some local bonding money to match the project, whatever they had to do. So they have this money invested. Then they turned around and asked fiber companies, whoever, other providers of a kind, companies competing with companies that already exist in the area to get on the fiber, to come on and lease capacity. Within these facilities, there are multiple strands of fiber, and so they're able to either lease an actual fiber or some of that capacity. It's all done electronically. But it's competition. It has the potential to compete at below market rates, and it concerns those of us that have existing facilities or invested facilities. The waiver of the referendum takes away the opportunity for some of the public discussion. Some of these projects might be good. They might be serving areas that are unserved, and no one would object. But when you waive the referendum, then there's less opportunity to even find out what's going on.
Thank you. Mr. Renda?
Well, Madam Chair, I think he's touched on, this is sort of a little tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot there. And, if in fact this is going to remain in the bill, then maybe there needs to be reconsideration of the referendum. Maybe there needs to be some higher level of transparency, some requirement that those people who are going to pay the bill, should the thing fall flat on its face, have a full knowledge of the risk that the government is taking. These are risky ventures. We know this from the Monticello situation, and taxpayers, everyone involved, I guess, needs to really own up to the risk involved.
Yes, the Representative Lawler has a question.
I was just going to reiterate, Madam Chair and Representative Runbeck, as Kathy Lonnie indicated, it's certainly not the intent of the Institute to put forward a proposal that has, private concerns raised about it, that the private sector is not comfortable with. So with that, I would be happy to discuss, with our members and our issuer clients whether there might be a way to alleviate the concerns. And if there is, terrific, we'll try to get to that solution within the next couple of days. And if there's not, the Institute certainly would not have any objection to excluding this provision from our bill.
Thank you very much. Ursula Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are actually about Section 3, which is dealing with the Environmental Improvement Financing Program, which is, I recall, was a program that would help both homeowners or business property owners to finance energy improvements to their building. And because those improvements might, be of value to whoever was in that property for, say, 10 or 15 years, and they may not intend to be in that property that long, would like to have a different financing mechanism, and also to just make financing available for some of these types of improvements. And I've always appreciated the fact that it has the benefited qualifying real property, because that really requires that there be an energy audit, that somebody, say, through an analysis of that particular property was recommended that there actually is a payback when you invest in something that's really expensive, and it's so expensive you need to pay for it over a long period of time. And so taking out the benefited, to me, without surrounding it with some other requirements is a concern. And the second thing I have is that it now extends it up to 20 equal annual installments. And I'm afraid that some of these improvements that have been in the past, at least discussed related to this, might not have an expected useful life of that long, and so it should really kind of be tied to the expected useful life of the improvement. And I don't have no idea, I'm not an energy expert, of like, someone puts in a huge solar array at the